All right. What is happening, everybody? If you're watching this is how to do cost of inaction without breaking rapport. Okay. So many sales reps know that they should do COI, right? Quote unquote should. And yet they don't because they're too scared to do it. They don't want to break rapport. They don't want to lose the sale. And so they skip it and then end up getting objections anyways. And even then, they don't know how to handle those. And it's like, go figure, we don't have any material to work with. And so in this video, we're going to be breaking down how to do COI in a way that actually works for you, for the prospect, and simply lets you close more sales. Okay. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Alexander Riker, and I've been in high ticket sales for the last 10 years and worked my way up from being a setter to a closer to a top 1% closer with a 67% close rate, taking 8 calls a day, all the way up to leading multiple 8-figure sales teams. Okay. And so this channel is all about high ticket sales and how to master the game so that you can realize your potential and really learn how to sell in a way that feels good, natural, authentic, and effortless. And COI is part of that. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll also give you a free training on the 25 counting biases, the most powerful forces in the human psyche for making decisions. And I'll share with you how to get access to that at the end. All right. So let's go and dive in. I was just on a call, which inspired this video, with a closer for one of the teams that I'm training. And he is a really nice guy, very similar to myself, small town raised, grew up, with people pleasing tendencies, and really has a good heart and wants to help people, but struggles to go there or challenge clients or, really have that like gusto to say the thing that no one's willing to say. And he reached out asking for help because he wants to get over that hump, right? He wants to be able to have a 40 to 50% close rate, and he knows that COI is part of that. So we just had this chat, and he asked me, how did you get over COI, right? How did you get over that like gut feeling of, I don't, want to? And he's like, I know you say that the more that you do it, the easier it gets. And with each sale you make from doing it, the more those positive associations kick in, and then you're more likely to do it. But he's like, what was it for you? Like, is it really just that easy? Or is there something specific that you did? And so what I shared with him is what I want to share with you in this video. And it's actually less of the how, which we can definitely get into. And I'll be having plenty more videos like this coming out. But more often than not, this game is not about the how. It's not about scripts. It's not about word tracks. It's not about say this question in this way, right? And then you'll make your sale. I think you, at this point, you've probably already tried that to know that that's not quite it. And so I want to decodify why that isn't it through this story about COI and really how it shifted things for me. And a little quick caveat, if you don't know what cost of inaction is, it's basically on, and it's in the context of high ticket sales, but really any sale is where you help the prospect, the potential client, get really clear at what's at stake if they don't buy, right? The cost of inaction. Let's say you don't move forward, right? What is that going to cost you? Because there's always a price to pay, right? Whether you pay for the investment or you pay with your own time, money, and energy of having to figure out your own, or worst of all, you go and work with someone else who doesn't know what they're doing, burning that cash and time. There's always a price to pay. So the question is, right, what is the cost of you not taking action? That's what's called cost of inaction. The way that I teach it is that it's done after vision, right? So getting clear on their goals, and then you go where they're at, then you go challenges, and then you go cost of inaction. That's a video for another time. This video is going to be covering COI and how to feel good about doing it if you care a lot about people, but you're wired like most people and you care about those things. So here's what I shared with him. So the way that I got over it was through an Australian sales coach, okay? Good old Zachy D, okay? And Zachy D is what we'll call him. Zachy D had me do really interesting exercises. He had me go to the downtown center of San Diego and literally scream at the top of my lungs. I was on the phone with him, right? Sharing with him, hey, I'm struggling to challenge clients. He was like, mate, get up, go downtown, right? And so he had me go into a plaza where there's a bunch of people and literally shout at the top of my lungs, I love money and money loves me. I love money. And he's like, louder, louder, right? I'm like, I love money, money loves me, right? And he had me do that about 10, 12 times, very loud. And he goes, good. Now, how do you feel? And I was like, dude, I feel great. I feel like I could say anything I want. I feel like I don't care what these people think, right? And he's like, yes, yes, Alexander, yes, right? But the reason I share that story is because there's a little something in our brains called the governor, right? David Goggins talks about this. And the governor essentially is your subconscious belief around what is possible, right? And so he talks about the context of running, right? You're running. Oh, I can't do this. And you keep pushing through and you push past the governor. And then there's a new baseline for the governor. And the governor is the root of your self talk. The governor is the root of when you're thinking about doing COI, you're thinking about challenging a client, or you're thinking about going there, there's that little voice is like, no, don't do it. You might lose a sale. Oh, no, God, who are you to challenge a client? Right? Right? All these little thoughts are the governor. And so, what this exercise did for me was it pushed me past the governor of don't, be crazy and outlandish in public because you might get publicly executed, right? Or whatever that little belief is. But it's that fear of public shame or caring what people think that so many people have. And I had too until I did that exercise, right? The thing is, he didn't stop there. He had me keep doing it so much so that actually I kicked out of 3 different co-working spaces in San Diego for doing these types of exercises. And I want to share these exercises with you because this is what actually got me across the line in sales to literally raise my governor, to not give a fuck what people think, right? Excuse my language, but literally not care what people think whatsoever. And to actually go there with a client to like say the thing that no one's willing to say, right? So that they can actually buy, but more importantly, change their life, right? And this also helped me get really clear on how COI is actually in their best interest to do. So it's called conditioning. And the long form of it is, actually coined by Tony Robbins, neuro-associative conditioning. But what conditioning states is that essentially, right, you can wire beliefs through conditioning. And conditioning is your focus, your words, and your physiology, right? So even as I'm speaking right now and you become aware of me, right, there's a certain energy that I'm giving off, right? And if I was speaking all uncertain, like, yeah, here's how to do COI, right? There's going to be a certain energy, right? Or if I'm very certain and confident, here's how to do COI, hands down the best way, right? 2 different energies, 2 different tonalities, 2 different energies, 2 different physiologies, right? And so essentially, what I did is I would set a timer for 5 minutes, and I would look in the mirror, and it's it is tough to do if you're living with someone or if you have roommates. But that's kind of the whole point, is to get over fears of what people think and essentially push so far past the governor that the governor just completely shuts up and you're good. You don't have this fear anymore, right? But I would set a timer for 5 minutes and I would challenge myself to just communicate powerful beliefs with certainty and intensity, right? So I am the best enrollee you've ever met. I can handle any objection hands down. If you give me a problem, I can solve it. There's not a single prospect that I can't enroll. Any type of client, I enroll them, right? This type of stuff. And the louder you can do it, the more intense that you can do it, the better. You start to wire the mind and the brain for certainty and you start to condition these beliefs. And as you do it, right, it starts to show up in your calls. All of a sudden, there's no governor saying, hey, don't do COI. God forbid you break rapport, even though you're going to lose the sale anyways because you don't know how to handle objections, right? There's no little voice saying that. Just kidding. That's my voice. But, right, there's no little voice saying, oh, don't go there. And the thing is, if you want to see if the governor is real or not, I challenge you to do this, right? I think across all the people I've shared this with, which hasn't been that many because I know most aren't willing to do this, but one guy who did apply it, his name's Mason Church, and I'll actually never forget this. We decided to work together. He was the very first closer that I ever trained, actually, very first closer, and he had bought, and I'll share with you this quick story because he ended up doing conditioning and ended up creating great results. So it'll help you. But he ended up moving forward with me, right? He invested. And about a week later, I get this text from him. He's like, "Hey, dude, right? I'm having buyer's remorse. I don't think I really should have done this. Like, it was, irresponsible of me financially to do this, blah, 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 blah." Right. And I go, "Hey, man, thanks for sharing that. Let's chat. How's your availability tomorrow, the next day?" We get on the phone and I lovingly call him forth, right? And I share with him, I said, "Dude, you're living with your aunt, okay? You've never made 10K a month in your life. And you tell me that you want to go and learn sales and master sales, and here you are trying to quit only a week into the game. At this rate, you will never be successful. It doesn't matter what you do. And that's not me projecting it onto you. This is a pattern in your life that is causing you to not be who you're meant to be. So we're not going to do a refund. What we're going to do is actually double down, and you're going to absolutely crush it. And we're going to do that through conditioning." And I just shared with him the things I shared with you. Well, this man went on to do conditioning. The way that he would do it was he'd actually turn the shower cold, and then for 5 minutes, right, literally just rip empowering beliefs. I'm a beast at enrollment. I can handle any objection under the sun, right? Whatever it is. And true story, okay, went on to do 70K in sales within those next 2 months, and then ended up getting on an A-tier level offer with a great company where he started earning $20,000 a month. Okay, true story. And that is the power of conditioning. All right. We all have self doubts, we all have fears, we all have limitations, but conditioning is a really powerful tool to break through them. This is how you get past people pleasing. Okay, this is how you get past being weak in sales. And it's not like bro rah rah, it's you're not caring enough about your clients to go there with them to challenge them, right? And this is what I shared with that closer that I just had this call with that inspired this video. Is, I said, "Dude, the thing about you is you actually care about clients, right? Just like myself, I actually care, right? The reason I got in this game is to help people. Hence why I'm starting transformationalsales.com, right? Which is literally an entire movement around people who actually care about sales and are mission driven and want to learn how to sell in this way that I'm talking about." And I said, "So you really care, and that is your superpower, right?" And his whole thing was he was scared to break rapport. And so I said, "If you lose rapport, does that mean that you can't get it back?" Think about that for a second, right? Our fear is if we do COI, then we'll lose rapport. So let's just think about that. If you lose rapport, does it mean that you can't get it back? No, of course not. So then what that does mean is that if you quote unquote lose rapport, then you can always get it back. Yeah. Okay, so then why are we scared of losing something that we can always get back? And especially for those of us who, were people pleasers growing up prior to this video, or had people pleasing tendencies, you know how to create rapport. That's your superpower. You're really freaking good at it. So if you want, you can just get it back. Just do what you already know how to do. Get people to like you, right? It's your primary sales strategy anyway, so just do that. But here's the deal, right? And here's what I learned that took my close rate to a 67% is that the reason why I started doing COI is not just because of conditioning. That was how I did it. But the reason that I really started to lean into it fully is because I actually cared enough about the client that I knew that if I didn't go there, their life would not change. Right? So a lot of us say that we care about clients, but then our actions don't reflect it. If you truly cared about the client, wouldn't you help them get the clarity that if they don't change, we're not talking about buying the program, we're talking about the current trajectory of their life, right? That if they don't change, if they don't course correct, if they don't do a new action, whether they work with us or not, right? If we don't give them that clarity, how can we possibly expect them to make a decision and change? Very difficult to expect that of them. And of course, objections are going to come up because we didn't surface what's at stake if they don't change because of our own stuff. And so if we actually cared, we would go there with them. And for me, my one of my biggest values in sales is ethics, right? I'm not here to try and close everyone. I think it's a big misconception in sales is that let's try and close everyone, right? And your close rate's a reflection of how well you are at sales. It's like really your true close rate is on who's qualified, right? Who's a fit and is able to invest. And those are the people that should never get away. And far too many closers let good deals slip away because of the exact thing that I'm talking about right now. But at the end of the day, right, it is a disservice to them to not give them that clarity. And so if you actually cared, you'd be willing to do whatever it took to help them gain that clarity. And for me, with the ethics piece, right, it's like if someone's not a fit, I'm not going to enroll them. I'm not going to try and do COI. In fact, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to say, hey, you should go with this person over here. Or, you know what, this isn't a fit. Appreciate you. Unfortunately, we can't help you. So I'm going to send you this way, right? If someone's not a fit, I'm not going to try and enroll them. If they don't have a problem I can help them solve, right? Or a goal I can help them achieve, I'm not going to try and enroll them. But on the flip side of that, if someone is a fit and I can help them, you better believe I'm going to do everything in my power to get that person to buy. 100%, I will influence them to buy. Why? Because I know that it's the best thing in their interest. It's for them, right? It's for them. And yeah, absolutely worst case scenario, I will hard close. Very rarely have I actually had to do that because of the approach that I take and this methodology I'm sharing with you now through this channel and through my private clients, right? But occasionally, I will have to hard close, not to make the sale, to get this person to do what's in their own goddamn interest, right? And that is the power of ethics, right? And what really gave me the permission to lean in doing savage COIs that help people absolutely transform, right? So I wanted to share this with you. The last bit that he shared with me was like, man, I wish I had some examples and like visual representations or seeing people do this, some models, if you will, so that I could kind of emulate that. I said that's a really fair point, right? So I actually have some OG enrollment calls that I've done that I'd be happy to share, so you can kind of see this. Would also love to do some call reviews here. So if you have a call that you love reviewed, feel free to send it to me or just hit me up on any platform, and I'd be happy to potentially, not going to guarantee that I will, but potentially review it here to kind of highlight what a great COI looks like and or demonstrate what a bad COI looks like, not towards you, but just so that you can get feedback to improve. And I can also, demonstrate this through recording sales calls and that type of stuff. But before we got into the how, I wanted to give you the actual thing that's going to help you get really good at sales. It's not information. It's not the how. It's not even seeing it. That stuff all works and comes in place once you actually have the belief and the energy to go about it, which is what I wanted to share with you here today. Right. So appreciate you. If you watched all of this, thank you so much for giving me your valuable time and attention. I hope that in return, I gave you an extra sale this week, an extra sale tomorrow, right? By actually going there and COI and seeing how it's in the client's best interest and some good tools to actually start to shift this for yourself, okay? Set a time, right? When will you do it? Where can you do it? And when can you do it? And I recommend doing it really for the next 30 days. That's a big ask. I would say just do it once, right? Just do it once, set a timer for 5 minutes and see if you can do conditioning and notice how your tonality changes. Notice how you struggle to come up with the words. Notice how it's not so easy to do conditioning. And that's the governor kicking in that's showing up on your sales call because everything affects everything. How we do one thing is how we do everything. And it will 100% show up. And that is the power of this exercise. And it will help you break through into COI. So appreciate you so much. Value add at the end. As promised, if you want the 25 cognitive biases, just DM me on any social platform. These biases are so powerful, literally insane for close rate. These are things you need to know. You're not going to find them anywhere else. Charlie Munger coined them. Robert Cialdini made them famous with his book. And then I took them and applied them to high ticket sales. And they're basically the biases that are hardwired in the brain that force clients to practically hurl their credit card at you. All right. So if you want those, just DM me 25 on any platform. And, feel free, if there's a certain video that you'd like created or a certain topic you want covered, feel free to ask me to do so. Appreciate you so much. And I'll see you in the next one.